this episode I've got two images that were actually shot in two separate locations that are quite different from each other. And I'm putting them together in this one episode because they're quite close together geographically, and I shot them on the same day. Let's have a look at them. Well, I'm in the area of Greymouth in the South Island of New Zealand, and it's looking like good potential for a sunset tonight, although it's multiple hours away yet, so I've got a bit of time to kill. I spent most of the midday just scouting around various beaches and stuff. There is a lot of interesting beaches in this area, especially north of Greymouth. Some of them are well-known tourist attractions, others are completely unknown. Right now, I'm killing a bit of time by walking into a place called Coal Creek. There's a waterfall up here. But I'm questioning my wisdom of coming here right now because the sun's coming out. Look at this tree, by the way. Pretty interesting tree. Yeah, so the sun's coming out. I would have liked it to be cloudy. It was cloudy. Now it's coming to blue sky. So I'm not very optimistic about this waterfall at this point, but we'll see. You never know when we get there. Bit of sunlight on the waterfall, which is maybe not turning out too bad. The waterfall does have kind of a brownish red tinge to it, which is interesting against the green that's in the foreground here. And you can see where I'm composing, and I'm just trying to get a little bit of this stream right in front of the camera and the moss. The waterfall is just taking up the top right third of the picture. So I gotta be more careful where I stand here because this is all green moss here and it's very slippery. So I'm getting this shot right here, and then I'm thinking about going right there, getting that as a foreground with the stream coming off to the left of the picture. This is one instance where I'd like to have some kind of remote goggles where I could see the viewfinder. I'm so low down right to the stream that I can't get my eye to the eyepiece without kneeling right in the stream, getting my pants all wet. But so I'm just kind of guessing about my composition, and then trying to look at what's in the screen here. It's so hard to see in the daylight. So I'm going to make an assumption that that's not too bad. Now I'm going to head over there, try something similar. And I am definitely focus stacking this because I'm very close to the foreground. I've also got the polarizer on so I can see what's going on underneath the water here, and a 3-stop ND filter as well, just to slow it down a little bit. It is a little bit bright out. I've still got about 3 hours until sunset, so a bit of time to kill. So I'm at Punakaiki, the Pancake rocks. And as you can tell by the path behind me, which is paved, this is a high traffic attraction. Probably the biggest tourist trap on the west coast other than Milford. I'm a little hesitant about shooting here. Just thinking that I'd be fighting with other tourists to get a spot to take a shot. Although it is COVID, so there's no international tourists here other than me. But there is local New Zealand travelers. Of course, they can't leave the country, but they are in a COVID-free bubble here, so all the tourists are, the New Zealand tourists are traveling their own country. So there is tourists around. I was going to say, one of the things that you have to get used to when you come to New Zealand is stuff closes really early. It's only like 5 o'clock, and the cafe here and the gift shop, they're all closed already. And even the hotel I get checked into closes their offices at 7 p.m. How does that make sense? But that's the way it works here. So one of the challenges here at Punakaiki is getting a shot that's different from hundreds of other tourists. And you can do it if you jump the fence. So there is one really good shot from on the other side of this barrier on that pinnacle right there, which was shot by a quite well-known landscape photographer whose name shall remain Elia. Problem is, you're not supposed to go there. But it's a great perspective, but it's a sheer cliff on 3 sides. And I'm not going to test it myself. I'll show you what it looks like from over there. looked all around this place, and the composition I like best happens to be this one, which is the first place you see when you walk in here. Most of the tourists go straight to the blowholes, which are over there, and so that's where everyone gets their shots. I haven't seen any from right here, so that's a good thing, I guess. So I like how that pinnacle right there stands out and is a little bit separated from the rest of the cliffs. The sunset should happen right out there, and the good part is perfectly clear horizon over there and clouds above. So ideal conditions for now. Problem is the sunset is 2 hours away, so I don't know if it's going to stay like this until then, but now I just got to find a way to kill time. So I had been scouting a bunch of the beaches just because with the potential good sunset happening tonight, I was hoping for a place that's not been rinsed and everyone's shot to death like this place. But the problem is it's supposed to be high tide at sunset. The two best beaches in this area are not going to be accessible during high tide. So this is my next best option. If I get the camera out here far enough, I'll get the light bouncing off this wall over here. I'm not sure if I can get out there. I'm not supposed to because of the sign, but I don't know, this looks relatively safe to me. And you can see why this place is called Pancake Rocks. Right here you can see they're layered. Well, here you can see how I've set up for this shot here. My lens is on its widest it'll go at 16 millimeters. So that should take in everything from these pancake rocks right here over to this wall. And the sunset is looking somewhat promising. Clouds are going down to just above the horizon, and the sun's still above the clouds right now. I've got about probably 40 minutes until sunset. So I'm hoping when the sun gets down to the horizon, it's going to light up these cliffs here on the side. Not this one, but these ones, and then that pinnacle that looks like a head, and of course all these rocks in between. So I'm hoping, I mean, it's a pretty good angle for the sun to hit all these, I think. And right on the horizon I see a little bit of haze, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, but let's just see what happens. Also, I'm not really sure about how long of an exposure I want to do. There's not really much action in the ocean at all. So right now I've got no filters on, and so it's going to be a short exposure. I am bracketing because it's going to be a high dynamic range, but I might also experiment with putting like a 6-stop ND filter just to see what it looks like when the ocean is blurred out. So I've just been snapping away almost constantly, and we're getting some pretty nice color right now, but no light on the cliffs. So it's going to be a hard choice whether to go for the light on the cliffs or to go with this sky. I can't really mix them both together, it wouldn't make sense. So guys, the show is just about over here. Just a little bit of nice color up in the top in the clouds here, which was only barely in my shot. I didn't want to recompose to get that, just in case I need to composite layers together, then every shot is the same composition exactly. Well, this image obviously didn't come off the camera looking exactly like that, so we're going to take a quick look at what I did to these images to get them to what they look like now. I think first we're just going to go back to how this image was when I started editing it. You might recall when I was shooting this that I aligned the camera so that I could see the wall on the right, because I was hoping that I would get the sun bouncing off of it. As it turned out, I selected an image here that was actually from after the sun had dropped below the horizon, so the sun on the wall on the right was irrelevant. And in fact, when I look at this now, virtually everything on this right edge is just clutter and it's just too busy, and so I decided to just get rid of that part of the image. Since I decided to get rid of the clutter on the right side, there's some advantages to the composition as it turns out now. A lot of what's good about this image, I think, is all about composition. You'll notice that a lot of the main subjects of the image now are aligned on the rule of thirds. I have this main pinnacle now aligned on pretty much exactly the right rule of thirds line, and the horizon also on a rule of thirds line. We also have the rock formations on both the right and the left side that create a valley that funnels your view right through to the main pinnacle at the background of this shot. We also have a bit of a counterpoint going on here, where what I think is the main subject, which is this pinnacle, is on the right third, but it's also offset by what is perhaps the second main subject, which is where the sun went down, and this balances out the picture quite nicely. And now you can see what all these composition features look like together to make this image work. You may recall also that when I was shooting this, I was kind of moaning about that a lot of the best part of the sky was slightly out of the picture, and I didn't want to move the camera up because I needed to keep the composition where it was originally so that I could composite layers together. And a lot of the best part of this image is the sky, but I wanted to salvage a lot of that even though it was out of the picture. So what I did is I actually squashed the sky to bring more of it into the picture. You'll be able to see that when you look back at the original. Comparing the unedited version to the finished version, you can see how I've actually squashed the sky down to bring more of it into the frame. And going back to the unedited version, you can also see that I've eliminated some of the distractions down here in the bottom corner and edited out a lens flare. This is the before shot, and this is after the edit. I was actually trying to draw quite a bit of attention to that pinnacle on the right third of the image, and that's partly because I kind of see an image there of a head. In fact, it kind of looks a bit like the statues on Easter Island, and it's kind of nice that that statue is facing directly to the sunset. Having said all of this, I don't think it's a really perfect image. It is a bit busy for my liking, maybe a little bit too much clutter. And there's something else about this image that's not quite right, although I can't quite put my finger on it. I can't quite decide if I've maybe overcooked the edit a little bit. But I think I'm going to give myself about a 6 out of 10 on this image. Now going to the waterfall at Coal Creek. Again, I was trying to observe a few rules of composition here. As you can see, the waterfall is quite far off center, but I think it still works because it's balanced out by these streams that are exiting the frame on the bottom left corner. There are also maybe a few leading lines in here, although you maybe have to try hard to find them, but the most obvious one is here in this top corner. And if you really try hard, there's another one leading from the opposite corner going up if you follow these rocks. At first I wasn't sure if I liked this shallow stream area when I was shooting it, but it was the most accessible area to shoot, and after the edit I think it actually turns out pretty well. In fact, this area is probably one of my favorite parts of the image. I know the video didn't exactly do it much justice, but in the final edit I think this actually looks really nice. A few of the things that I tried to enhance here, I did some dodging on these plants that I thought were quite interesting, and then I also brought out the red that's in the rock on the waterfall. Here's the before edit and the after edit. So with all of that, I think this image worked out a little bit better than expected, and I'm going to say this is a 7 out of 10.